Countries like Ghana are encouraging their indigenous languages in schools. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, the government of Nigeria has decided to cancel indigenous languages. They are asking the teachers to teach the students with English, throwing away our language. The Yoruba language, the Hausa language, the Igbo language would no longer be taught in school. This is getting serious. Let's watch the video to hear what they have to say, and don't forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe.
What are we Nigerians doing as a nation? Are we moving forward or we're moving backward? It hurt me every time I come online to talk bad about Nigeria. But some of us are left with no option but to criticize our own time and time again so that we will learn something. Because clearly, the direction that we are heading to is not the right direction. At this critical junction, we have to learn one or two from our neighboring West African countries, even if it means learning from Ghana. Yes, I said it. Even if it means learning from Ghana. By the way, Ghana gained independence before Nigeria, so it's not a crime if we learn from Ghana. But let me show you this report, my people. Anyways, good morning. On October this year, Ghana announced a new policy to replace English with local languages as the primary medium of instruction in schools, with the government arguing it will improve comprehension and preserve cultural identity. Emphasis on that line, preserve cultural identity. Nigeria did the same thing in 2022. But guess what, my people? Fast forward to 2025. The federal government of Nigeria, through the announcement of Minister of Education, declares English sole medium of instruction, says mother tongue policy destroyed education. Did you hear that? Mother tongue policy destroyed education. Still on the article, the federal government has cancelled the national policy mandating the use of indigenous languages as the medium of instruction in schools. Minister of Education said at the 2025 Language in Education International Conference, organized by the British Council in Abuja, on Wednesday, emphasis on that line, organized by the British Council in Abuja. So Nigeria officially ditched their indigenous languages in school to embrace English wholeheartedly under the instruction of British Council in Abuja. The national policy on language has been cancelled. English now stands as the medium of instruction across all levels of education in Nigeria, the Minister of Education declared. This is the same country in 2022 approved national language policy, which stipulates that from early childhood education to primary six, the language of instruction will be the mother tongue or the language of the immediate community. The policy aims to promote indigenous languages. Unfortunately, fast forward to 2025, Nigeria abolished everything and embraced English wholeheartedly. This is the same country where you have some people making mockery of other Africans for embracing white people. I'm not a fan of white people. I'm not a fan of Europeans. But when all said and done, our hypocrisy is glaring. Our desperation for validation from the Europeans and from the white race is also unimaginable. We criticize other Africans. We call them sellout. But look at us. We ditched our own indigenous languages to embrace English officially in all levels of education in Nigeria. The Minister of Education said decision to cancel the policy was based on extensive data analysis and evidence indicating that the use of the mother tongue as the primary medium of instruction had negatively impacted learning outcomes in several parts of the country. So the reason why you are not learning well in school today is because of your mother tongue. That is what the Minister of Education is simply saying. The Chinese never abandoned their indigenous languages to become one of the most powerful nations on earth today. The Japanese, the Italians, the Polish, the Finnish people of Finland, they speak their indigenous languages in schools as primary instruction for learning. Unfortunately, you have Nigeria embracing English and teaching their own indigenous languages. And this is the same country that want to rule Africa. You want Africans to unite so that you will sell it cheaply to the colonial masters again. See, through Nigeria, Africa will be colonized again. Go and mark this.
Breaking news, federal government bans teaching in indigenous languages, declares English the only language to be spoken in Nigerian schools. The federal government has abolished the use of indigenous languages as a medium of instruction in Nigerian schools, making English the sole language of teaching from early childhood to tertiary level. Now, I want to ask a honest question. What of those that are in universities right now studying Igbo education, Yoruba education, Bini education, Hausa education? What happens to them? What do they do with that degree? They are not going to use it to teach other people Igbo education and Hausa education. What happens to people in the north that don't understand English? You have to practically teach them how to write 1, 2, 3 in Hausa. What happens to them? You want to tell me that you want to enforce this law in this country in 2025, leaving our culture completely, and then we focus on English? In the north, you have to explain to a child that this is one, this is how it is written. Then you tell them in Hausa, in case you see this thing, you know that this is number 1. How do you stop that? How exactly do you plan to eradicate indigenous languages in schools? Because I do not see the possibility.
Aboriboyo, the current Minister of Education in Nigeria, just cancelled the formative teaching of children with the local language. And it's very shocking because it's only been implemented for 3 years. And his view was that it's not yielding the appropriate interest or success. There was no data presented, there's no fact stated. And he has no even the educational expertise or consultation to prove that he expressed why it's not working. Just woke up one day because he was in the British Council and decided we're going to revert back to teaching English in the formative years, which shows the so-called minister is an intellectual imbecile. Regardless of his doctorate, it shows that he lacked the depth of what it means to teach, to educate formative years. And the idea that he cancelled it within 3 years of implementation shows he does not understand how critical thinking works in implementing policy. In order for him to fully assess it, he should have taken at least 6 years. The first year 1 to primary 6, and then after that to evaluate that to see if the direction is working or tweak it, not to totally abandon it and change course. This is simply because you are in the presence of the British Council. What he doesn't understand, the intellectual moron Minister of Education, is that language is culture, and culture is embedded in your identity of which your language conveys. And intelligence is designed through the culture of your language, the similarities of that. So there's no different in saying, just the same way you see people go to Arabic school, they identify and begin to pick the culture of the Arabic school, or those who went to French school, or went to Japanese school, or went to any other language school as their formative years. And that's how they pick about the culture, the identity, the religion, and everything. And this intellectual imbecile called minister, I refuse to even mention it because it's an insult to intelligence to put doctor to his name, does cancel one of the success of Buhari regime. The Buhari regime went as far as making it clear that the importance of it, they did the research. One thing Buhari did good was implementing that and say local, at the primitive early years, local language, local community language within that territory should be taught. It gives them identity. It allowed them to trace history and culture. Now this intellectual imbecile came and now remove it. To please who? The English? Or what exactly? I don't get it. Government is continuum. Regardless if your predecessor implemented due diligence, you've only been in the office less than 2 years. The thing has only been implemented for about 3 years, going 4 years. What study did you do? What research, what data did you do to change that policy when it's just at its infant stage? Dear Minister, for the greater good of us Nigerians and to identify us with our language, with our culture, please reverse this moronic decision, arbitrary moronic decision you make yourself, for yourself to please the English, whatever council you were. It's a disgrace and a shame. And you called yourself a doctor in what? In bullshit? You are an insult to Nigerians, you are an insult to intelligence, you are an insult to the fiber that owes us dearly. Each region at the primitive age should teach these children with the language of their ancestors, the language of their culture, the language of their identity. Why change that? One thing good Buhari did. Why? Are you envious of your predecessor, or what exactly the purpose why you changed that policy? You are a disgrace. This is not President Tinubu, this is you. This is your ignorance, Minister of Education. Shame on you. You must revert this decision because it's a shameful decision. And it's a disgraceful decision. If I was the Minister of Education, I would have made the mandatory at the primitive age. This is why we have conflict. At the primitive age, the three major languages should be taught to them. Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa. I'm none of these three tribes. I'm from Edo State. But the three major languages are in accordance to the local language that you belong to. If it's Tifi, Edo State, like mine, Benin, in some quarters, should also be taught. Because if I understand your language, you understand my language, we begin to find parity and understanding. Because both of us speaking a foreign language, then we see them as a medium of understanding, of maturity, or even wisdom. English is just a language. It's not any level of demonstration of intelligence. English is no different from French, from Japanese, from whatever language, and definitely not greater than Yoruba, not greater than Igbo or Hausa language, certainly not greater than my Asian language. It's just a goddamn language. It's not a level of intelligence. It shows your own lack of level of intelligence, understanding what education is about. Education is beyond 1 + 1 is 2. Education is about history. It's about culture. It's about identity. And above all, it's about us. And you're a disgrace. Education Minister, you should quit. You should be fired for this. You should really be fired because you have no clue what you're doing. I urge the president to sack you because you're an insult to the intelligence and you're an insult to us Nigeria. You basically just said English language is superior than our language. That's what it is. And it's the yardstick you judge intelligence. That shows you don't know what education is. Education is not about language.
This is a huge disgrace to the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa. Other countries are embracing their indigenous languages. You guys know that the other time, some weeks ago, the Minister of Education in Ghana abolished English teaching language. He encouraged teachers to teach the students in the local languages, the Twi language, the Ga language, the Ewe language. He encourages them to do that. In Nigeria, they are abolishing our local language and embracing the British language, our colonial masters' language, people that colonized us. Is Nigeria moving forward or we are moving backward? Are we moving forward or are we moving backward? This is to tell you the level of, hatred these people have for our country. They don't love us. They don't want our country to progress. They don't want our language to be heard. That is the reason why Ghana will keep being ahead of Nigeria. Ghana will keep being ahead of Nigeria in everything they do, because everywhere you go to in the world, Ghanaians are always representing their culture, representing their country, their language, their fabrics, their food. They're always showing it on the faces of people. But in Nigeria, Nigerians want to be westernized. An average Nigerian man will travel abroad. They will throw away their local dialects. They want to embrace the culture of the white man just because they want to feel among. But Ghanaians can never do that. Ghanaians can never ever do that. And that is the reason why the country is progressing. And that is the reason why people are hearing about Ghana than Nigeria. Just let me know what you think in the comment section. Like this video and share.